Morning guys, and welcome back to I Like Our Watches 2. Now in this video I want to show you my new Citizen JDM Digi Temp watch, which has just arrived. I did import it from Japan. I had a little bit of help from someone I met through eBay, Yukino. Yukino does have an eBay store. She sells lots of watches on there amongst lots of other things. So if you want some help importing something from Japan, yeah, maybe get in touch. I'll put a link to her eBay store in my video description. Now, if you Google Digi Temp Citizen, you'll see lots of watches coming up. They first made this watch in the 80s and they've re-released some newer versions which look a lot like the watches that were made in the 80s. But you'll generally get watches come up that are sort of square, whereas this one's got, well, a round face. I think it's known as the round face Digi Temp. And when I first saw it, I thought that is awesome, and Yukino sent it to me. So yeah, in this video I'm going to head over to the Lightbox and just show you this watch in a little bit more detail. It's pretty cool. Now you're probably looking at this packaging and thinking, well, exactly as I did. Doesn't look a lot like a Citizen watch, does it? It's a sort of spectacles case. I did get in touch with Yukino and ask, what's with the packaging, and she replied, this is how the watch turned up to her from the supplier in Japan. So yeah, I'm really not sure what's going on there. I didn't get to the bottom of it, unfortunately. But anyway, this is how the watch arrived. It came with some paperwork. The watch was in a plastic bag. I think it was wrapped up in bubble wrap as well. But I've already had it out and had a little fiddle with it. Let's have a look at the paperwork. This is a website and they sell watches. So I suspect this is where Yukino got the watch from. There's a few other bits and pieces in here, which obviously I don't understand. But there is some official Citizen paperwork, look. So yeah, there is some stuff in here which might be useful. Is it in English? No, it's all Japanese by the looks of it, but that's not a surprise because this is a proper JDM watch. But I have Googled it and the caliber inside, and there are English instructions on how to basically use all the functions. So yeah, let's have a look at the watch. Here's the hang tag then. It is model JG0070-11E, and that is the price, 29,700 yen. I haven't done the conversion, so it's going to appear right here, right now. And there is the details of the movement inside. It is exactly the same caliber movement that is in, I say movement, it's a digital analog watch with temperature. So yeah, Digi Temp. So yeah, these square-faced ones have exactly the same module, is the word I'm looking for, inside. It's just this one has come in, well, a pretty heavy and substantial case. That was the first thing that struck me when I took this watch out. It's quite heavy. I sort of expect digital watches like this to be a little bit cheap feeling, almost a bit plasticky, but this thing feels really substantial. Yeah, like really good quality. So I am impressed with seemingly the construction. I've no idea how to get the case back off. Yeah, maybe I should take this strap off and have a look, see if there's any levers or something under there. Here's the case back then. 50 meters of water resistance. It is stainless steel, Japan movement, cased in China. That's not a surprise. Even Swiss-made watches have their cases and bracelets, very often, I should say, made in China. So yeah, a lot of casework and steel work gets done in China, even for Citizen and I think Seiko, and like I said, Swiss-made watches. Now when it comes to producing content on digital watches like this, I think the focus needs to be more on what it does and how it does it than sort of case finishing and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm going to focus a little bit more on, well, what's going on this dial, because it seems to be a little bit complicated. I bet back in the 80s when the original watch was first released, this thing used to look super space age and yeah, I mean, incredible looking. A couple of dials up here, a couple of digital displays, and then a sort of functions indicator is the word I'm looking for, down here. 4 buttons on the side. It keeps catching me out because I expect the mode button to be this one, but it's the light. Look, let me just quickly show you that. There it is. Oh, it's not fantastic because my phone is struggling to focus, and that's always an indicator that it's not great. Hang on a minute. I'll press it and then turn the light off. There it is. Look, oh, gone again. One more time. There it is. So yeah, the mode button isn't down here, it's up here, and that is going to move this little indicator here, look. So we've got dual time, stopwatch, it should start on time actually, then we've got date, alarm, dual time, stopwatch. You can actually set this analog time, or these hands here, to a third time zone. They're not linked or connected to any of the digital times. So this is the standard time, and then we've got the dual time here. So you can actually have 3 different time zones. Now this button in the top right hand corner is actually going to move this little icon across here, and it's going to change what this seconds hand does. Well, this is the seconds hand to this time at the moment. If we press the button, we go to alarm, so it's telling us that the alarm is set for 8 o'clock. And then if we press it again, it gives us a dual time indicator. So it sort of doubles up a little bit what this one down here does. There is a stopwatch, so if we go over to that, it's fairly standard function of start, stop, and then reset. And I think there is a lap function as well with this one down here. There is an alarm. It looks like there's only one alarm. If we go to alarm on this indicator, we can switch it on and off by pressing this button in the bottom right hand corner. You can see the alarm indicator has now gone, and there is a chime function as well. So yeah, you can have it chime every hour. Now one function it does have, which most other digital watches don't have, is a thermometer. So it can tell you the temperature in degrees C. When it flashes like this, it's giving you a temperature every second, or sensing the temperature every second. If you press this button again, it stops flashing, and it's giving you the average temperature over the last minute, I think. One thing that you need to do with this function, though, if you are actually going to use it, is take it off your wrist, because having the watch on your wrist does tend to make that temperature rise, because it's essentially being affected by the heat from your body. So yeah, I'm not sure that's particularly useful, is it? If every time you want to get the temperature, you've got to take it off your wrist, and I think it needs to be left on its own for 20 minutes. So yeah, gimmicky, but not that useful, I don't think. Now, when I first saw this watch, I was a little bit curious about this. I thought initially it was maybe some vents for the speaker, but of course it has 50 meters of water resistance, so it's not going to be open. You're not going to get water through here, but it is actually where the sensor for the thermometer sits, and I think the material here is thinner than on the rest of the case, allowing the sensor to detect the temperature a little bit more quickly than it would if it was sitting behind a solid stainless steel case. So that's what that is. A few instructions down here as well, but I think I've pretty much run through most of the stuff that this watch can do. I will put the full list in the video description. It's a pretty cool looking watch, isn't it? Very sort of vintage 80s retro looking digital Digi Temp watch, I should say. I don't know. I've not been able to find out if they made a watch in the 80s that looks exactly like this, because this is essentially a modern interpretation, I believe. Alongside this watch, they have released almost identical looking watches, but in the sort of square shaped case. 2 watches that were made in the late 70s and throughout the 80s and early 90s, I believe. But this one, I've not been able to find any details of a watch they made in the 80s that looks like this. So yeah, if you know any more about that, let me know, because I am curious. But yeah, very cool JDM digital watch, isn't it? Certainly a bit different. And again, I'm just so surprised at the weight. Let me get the scales, actually. Right, it weighs, yeah, 78 grams. So it's not a light watch, given it's on a sort of rubbery, I think it's urethane strap. It's one of those straps that's really sticky, so it sort of sticks to itself. Oh, it's really difficult to pull through the retainers. I'm not a fan of it, actually. It feels just too sort of rubbery and sticky. It's going to be a bit of a limp magnet, but it feels like good quality. Signed buckle there, look. So yeah, it feels like a very, very well made watch. Oh, actually, let me take this part off and we can have a look at the case back, see if that's removable. Yeah, there it is. There's a sort of small opening here where you would put your tool to basically lift the case back. We should do that, shouldn't we? Yeah, why not? Let's do it. And there it is. That is the module inside this watch. 4 jewels. Citizen Watch Co. 8989 in the top left hand corner, look. That is the caliber of module. Not much to see, is there? But there it is. there we go. The case back is back on. That wasn't too difficult at all. I didn't need a tool. I was just able to press each of these corners and pop it straight back in. There is a little bit of damage on the case now, so that's almost certainly going to happen when you change the battery yourself, or if anybody changes it, to be honest, because yeah, that was quite difficult to get off. But nothing too serious, and that will be hidden by the strap. Right, let's wrap this up then with a shot of this thing on my roughly average 7¼ inch-ish wrist. It's pretty cool looking, isn't it? I do hate this strap though. I've just lost a number of hairs to this thing. It's so grippy. Pulling this tail through these retainers is a nightmare. Yeah, it was not fun putting this thing on. So if I was to keep this thing and wear it fairly regularly, it would definitely be going on a different strap. But it feels like a good quality strap. It's just too sticky. It's a cool looking watch though, isn't it? A sort of complicated 80s and a Digi Temp looking watch. Yeah, very funky looking and pretty affordable as well. I'll put some specifications in the video description, and if you're interested in picking up one of these, I'll put a link to eBay and maybe a link to Chrono24, because I think you can pick them up there as well. So yeah, very cool JDM and a Digi Temp watch. Awesome. Nice. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Take care. Look after yourselves. You'll see me again very, very soon.